Hey, what's up, guys? This video is a little supplement for 4.16. So today we're going to be working on fading an LED in and out. This is what's called like a breathing LED sometimes, like computers will do this when you put them to sleep or something like that, where we're going to fade between like our LED being really dim to getting bright, and then from bright back to dim again, and we're going to repeat the process over and over again. Right now I have a 5 millisecond delay within my system, which is making it go relatively fast. If I slowed that delay down, then it would take longer to get brighter and dimmer. If I sped it up, go faster, obviously. So 5 milliseconds is a good place to start, but you guys can like mess around with whatever you want. So there's a couple things we need to remember here. We're going to analog write our LED to get this like dimming effect, right? And we need to reference our pin number, and we need to reference our value. And remember, the value itself is going to go between 0 and 255. For this, though, we're going to use a variable to define that value. And, right now, I'd love for you guys to be able to say to yourself, like, how are we going to get like a number to change automatically from 0 to 255. So what have we done in the past that has allowed us to count in numbers, okay, as we go through? The answer is a for statement, right? So for statements, again, here we have our initialization, which is like what we're going to start our number at. We have our condition, which is how long we're going to continue within that for loop, and then we have our increment, which is how much we're going to be counting up by, and then we have our statements. Okay, so I'm going to walk you guys through the beginning of this code, and then you guys are going to finish this up on your own. All right, but these are the two main things that you're going to need to know to help get you set up here. I'm also going to print the value of this code here. All right, so let's run through this really quick, right? Multi-line comments, of course. Okay, so I set this up, Mr. Ashline, period, number. So this is my fade example code. We're going to print, in this case, we're just going to print a for loop that you're going to later use for your fade 4.16. And again, we have an LED connected to PWM pin 3, and the other side's connected to ground through a 1 kilo ohm resistor, which we set up in class the other day. All right, so we need a couple different variables for the top here. All of these are going to be integers today. So the first integer is going to be LED, which is going to be set to 13. The second integer that we're going to set up today is going to be called fade value, which is what we're going to actually count in our for loop with, and we're going to set that equal to 0. And those are the only two integers that we need for right now. So like I said, we are going to print the value. So we need to say serial.begin 9600. And we need our comments for everything here. I'll add those in a little bit. And we need to say pin mode LED is an output. Okay. So we're just going to create a for loop and print our for loop for today. All right. And then we'll talk about what you're going to do after this. So we're going to say for. And again, first is our initialization. So we're going to say fade value here, because that's going to be the term we use. Fade value is going to start, in this case, at 0. We're going to count from 0 to 255. Then in the next for loop that you create, which you're going to create on your own, you're going to count from 255 back to 0 again. Okay? So again, I'm counting from 0 to 255. So my condition is going to be fade value is going to be less than or equal to 255. So because we're counting from 0 up to 255, everything that's less than 255 is what I want. When you're counting from 255 down to 0, you're going to need a greater than, right? Because you're going to want numbers greater than 0 in there. Then we're going to put a semicolon in, and we're going to say fade value plus plus. Later on, you're going to use a minus minus to subtract something. Okay? We're going to put a curly Q bracket, hit return, so it automatically adds our next curly Q bracket. And in this case, all I'm going to do is print, serial print ln fade value. Okay. And I'm going to comment this and then we'll upload it and take a peek. I just realized as I'm typing in my comments up here, saying sets my LED to 3, but I actually set my LED to 13. Your LED should be set to 3. Okay, so set LED to 3. All right, so comments are done here. I'm setting my LED to pin 3. I'm creating a variable fade value that will fade the LED later on. I've started my serial communication. I've set my LED, which is my pin 3, as an output. My for loop, my for loop adjusts fade value from 0 to 255 each time by 1, right? We count 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. This variable will be used later on in the analog write function. And then here we're going to print the fade value. And then the last thing, which I forgot last time, is we want to add that delay in of 5 milliseconds, maybe up to like 10 milliseconds. Again, you can kind of play with that fade. That's not really something. I'll expect some sort of a delay in there, but it won't be something that I'm exactly specifying here. So we're going to call this fade. So here we can see in really rapid succession my number counting. All right, and I'm going to turn off auto scroll so we can actually see what happens here. Notice we count up to 255, then we restart the process, right? Once we get kicked out of the for loop, we go back into the for loop, we reinitialize it 0 again, and then we go through. And again, we're only waiting 5 milliseconds, which means that we're counting 20 numbers every second, roughly, in theory at least. So every second that goes by, we're counting 20 different numbers. So we go from, 0 to 255 and not that long at all. We count up, we hit 255, and then we go back to 0 again. So from here, I can just simply say, okay, analog write my LED, my fade value, right? Because that's the number that's actually changing every single time. And the reality is that I want my delay below that. Right, because I really want to fade, adjust my LED, that number, wait the 5 milliseconds before I adjust it to the next number, and then wait again. So we'll upload. Okay. So now you can see here what's happening to my LED. Let's turn auto scroll back on again. As my LED gets brighter, the number goes up. One thing that's different between right now and what you ultimately need to turn in is you need to smoothly go back down again. Right now, once it hits 255, it drops right back down to 0 again. And it's just off and then back on. So all this is really doing is getting brighter, turning off, getting brighter, turning off, and just repeating. But we want yours to get brighter to its brightest point. Then it's supposed to slowly get dimmer again to its off point. Then it's going to get brighter again, and so on and so forth. And again, in order to do that, you're going to invert your for loop. You're going to start at 255, you're going to go down to 0, and you're going to print that information. Okay, so hope that all helps. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But again, this is just a little extra for those of you who are struggling through this process. Okay, bye-bye.